You have no talent. Leave my conservatory and never come back. Professor Harrison had declared 6 years ago. Carnegie Hall, sold out. 2,800 seats. Harrison bought front-row tickets to impress his wife. The lights dimmed. Melody walked onto stage in a flowing white gown. Harrison's wine spilled. His wife gasped, "She's beautiful!" Melody sat at their grand piano. But first, she spoke. "This piece is for my children. Wave to mommy, babies." 3 children in the front row stood and waved. "Hi, Mommy." Harrison looked at their faces. His face, 3 times. His wife slowly turned to him. "Why do they look like you? But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, subscribe to the channel and let's get started. Mama, why do you always play piano when we are sleeping?" Melody Wright looked up from the kitchen counter where she was spreading peanut butter on 3 slices of bread. Her daughter Emma stood in the doorway wearing pink pajamas. Her dark curly hair stuck up in every direction. "Because that is my work time, sweetheart," Melody said. "When you 3 are awake, I want to be with you. When you sleep, I practice." Emma walked over and hugged her mother's waist. "I like hearing your music in my dreams." Melody kissed the top of Emma's head. "Go wake your sister and brother. The bus comes in 45 minutes. Emma ran down the narrow hallway of their small apartment. Melody heard her daughter shouting, "Sophia! Daniel! Wake up! Mama made breakfast!" Melody finished making 3 peanut butter sandwiches for school lunches. She poured orange juice into 3 plastic cups. She put cereal bowls on their tiny kitchen table. The apartment had 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and a living room with an upright piano against the wall. Melody slept in 1 bedroom. Her 6-year-old triplets shared the other bedroom with 3 small beds. Sophia appeared in the kitchen, rubbing her eyes. She had the same dark curly hair as Emma, but wore it loose around her shoulders. Daniel came next, yawning. His curly hair was cut short. All 3 children had green eyes that Melody saw every single day. Those eyes belonged to their father. But Melody never talked about him. "Eat quickly," Melody said. "Rosa will be here soon." The children sat at the table and ate their cereal. Melody watched them and felt the familiar mix of exhaustion and fierce love. She worked so hard to give them a good life. Some days she did not know if she was doing enough. The apartment door opened and Rosa Martinez walked inside. Rosa was 60 years old with gray hair and warm brown eyes. She had been the children's nanny for 3 years. She was also Melody's closest friend. "Good morning, my loves," Rosa said in her accented English. She kissed each child on the head. "Abuela," Daniel said. The children called Rosa grandmother, even though she was not related to them. "Finish eating," Rosa said. "Then brush your teeth." Melody grabbed her jacket. "I will walk them to the bus stop. Can you stay until I get back?" "Of course," Rosa said. "Take your time." 10 minutes later, Melody walked down the sidewalk holding Emma's hand. Sophia held Daniel's hand. The morning air was cold. It was early November in Providence, Rhode Island. Other children and parents waited at the bus stop 3 blocks from their apartment. The yellow school bus arrived. Melody hugged each child goodbye. "I love you," she whispered to Emma. "I love you," she whispered to Sophia. "I love you," she whispered to Daniel. "We love you too, Mama," they said together. They climbed onto the bus. Melody waved until the bus disappeared around the corner. When Melody returned to the apartment, Rosa was washing the breakfast dishes. "Thank you," Melody said. "Go practice," Rosa said. "I will clean." Melody sat at her upright piano in the living room. She placed her hands on the keys. She closed her eyes. Then she began to play. The music flowed from her fingers. She practiced scales first. Then she practiced a piece she was composing. The notes filled the small apartment. This was Melody's favorite time of day. Just her and the piano. Just her and the music. 2 hours later, Melody heard knocking on the door. She stopped playing. Rosa opened the door. The mail carrier handed Rosa a stack of letters. "Thank you," Rosa said. She brought the mail to Melody. Melody flipped through the envelopes. Bills, advertisements. Then she saw a thick cream-colored envelope. The return address said, Carnegie Hall, New York City. Melody's hands started shaking. She opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a letter on expensive paper. She read the first line. "Dear Miss Wright, it is our pleasure to invite you to perform a solo piano concert at Carnegie Hall." Melody read the sentence again. Then she read it a third time. Her vision blurred. Tears filled her eyes. "What is wrong?" Rosa asked, rushing over. Melody could not speak. She handed Rosa the letter. Rosa read it quickly. Her mouth opened in shock. "Melody, this is Carnegie Hall! This is the biggest concert hall in America!" Melody sat down on the floor. She started crying. She put her face in her hands and sobbed. Rosa sat beside her and wrapped her arms around her. "You deserve this," Rosa said firmly. "You worked so hard. You are so talented." "I cannot believe it," Melody whispered. "I cannot believe this is real." They sat on the floor together for a long time. Melody cried until she had no tears left. That afternoon, Emma, Sophia, and Daniel came home from school. They found their mother still holding the letter from Carnegie Hall. Her eyes were red from crying. "Mama, what happened?" Emma asked, looking scared. "Are you sad?" Melody shook her head. She smiled at her 3 children. "No, baby. I am happy. These are happy tears." "Why are you crying if you are happy?" Daniel asked, confused. Melody held up the letter. "I received an invitation to play piano at Carnegie Hall in New York City. That is the most famous concert hall in the whole country. Only the greatest musicians play there." Sophia's eyes went wide. "You are the greatest musician, Mama." "Does this mean you are famous?" Emma asked. "I do not know about famous," Melody said, "but it means I get to do something very special." Daniel started jumping up and down. "Mama is going to be famous! Mama is going to be famous!" Soon, all 3 children were jumping and dancing around the living room. Rosa laughed. Melody watched her children celebrate and felt her heart might burst from love. That evening, after the children ate dinner and went to bed, Melody called David Chen. David was her music producer. He lived in New York City and had helped Melody's career for 3 years. "Did you get the invitation?" David asked immediately. "Yes," Melody said. "I just got it this morning." "This is the biggest opportunity of your career," David said. His voice was excited. "If this concert goes well, you will be nationally famous. Everyone will know your name." Melody felt fear rise in her chest. "What if I am not ready? What if I fail?" "You will not fail," David said firmly. "You are ready. You have been ready. Trust yourself." Melody took a deep breath. "Okay. Yes, I will do it." "Good," David said. "I will call the coordinator tomorrow. We have 6 weeks to prepare. This is going to change everything, Melody." After they hung up, Melody walked to her children's bedroom. She opened the door quietly. Emma, Sophia, and Daniel were all asleep in their small beds. The moonlight came through the window and lit their faces. They looked peaceful and safe. Melody whispered into the dark room, "I will make you proud. I promise." She closed the door and walked to her piano. She sat down and placed her hands on the keys. Then she began to play. 300 miles away in Boston, Massachusetts, Harrison Cole sat in his office at the Berklee College of Music. He finished teaching his last class of the day. He was tired. He picked up a classical music magazine from his desk and started flipping through the pages. Then he saw an advertisement for upcoming concerts at Carnegie Hall. One name on the page made him freeze. Melody Wright. Harrison stared at the name. Then he saw the small photograph next to it. His stomach dropped. It was her, his former student, the woman he got pregnant 6 years ago, the woman he expelled from the conservatory. She was performing at Carnegie Hall. Harrison closed the magazine and sat in silence. His hands were shaking. Harrison opened the magazine again. He looked at the photograph more carefully. It was definitely Melody. Her face was older now, but he recognized her immediately. Her long brown hair, her warm brown eyes. This was the student he had taught 6 years ago, the student he had gotten pregnant, the student he had expelled. Harrison felt sweat on his forehead. How did this happen? He told Melody she had no real talent. He told her she would never succeed as a professional musician. He remembered saying those exact words to her face. But now she was performing at Carnegie Hall. Only the greatest pianists in the world performed there. Harrison put the magazine in his briefcase. He needed to leave his office. He needed to think. He walked through the hallways of Berklee College of Music. Students passed him carrying instrument cases. They nodded respectfully. Harrison had been a professor here for 18 years. Everyone knew him. Everyone respected him. But Harrison had secrets. He got into his car and drove to Cambridge, where he lived with his wife, Christine. The drive took 25 minutes. Harrison's mind raced the entire time. He thought about Melody. He remembered the day she came to his office 6 years ago. She was crying. She told him she was pregnant. She said the baby was his. Harrison remembered feeling panic. He was married at the time to his first wife, Jennifer. He had a reputation to protect. He told Melody she was making a mistake. He told her she was trying to ruin his life. 1 week later, he called her back to his office. He told her she lacked musical talent. He said she was not good enough for the conservatory. He expelled her for academic inadequacy. Melody begged him not to do this. She said she had nowhere to go. Harrison did not care. He wanted her gone, and she disappeared. Harrison never tried to find her. He assumed she gave up music and moved away. He assumed he would never see her again. But now she was performing at Carnegie Hall. Harrison pulled into the parking garage of his apartment building. He sat in his car for several minutes before going inside. He needed to compose himself. Christine could not know he was upset. Harrison took the elevator to the 4th floor. He unlocked the door to his apartment. Christine was in the kitchen cooking dinner. She was 28 years old, tall and beautiful, with straight blonde hair. Harrison had married her 2 years ago after divorcing Jennifer. "Hi, honey," Christine said, smiling. "How was your day?" "Fine," Harrison said. He put his briefcase on the counter. "Just tired." "I am making pasta," Christine said. "It will be ready in 20 minutes." Harrison nodded. He went to the bedroom and changed out of his work clothes. He put on jeans and a sweater. He looked at himself in the mirror. He was 46 years old. He had dark, curly hair that was starting to turn gray. He had green eyes. He looked tired. When Harrison returned to the kitchen, Christine was setting the table. Harrison decided to tell her part of the truth. He pulled the magazine from his briefcase. "I saw something interesting today," Harrison said carefully. He opened the magazine to the Carnegie Hall advertisement page. "One of my former students is performing at Carnegie Hall next month." Christine looked at the page. "Which one?" Harrison pointed to Melody's name and photograph. "Her. Melody Wright. She studied piano here about 6 or 7 years ago." Christine looked at the photograph closely. "She is beautiful." "Was she a good student?" Harrison chose his words carefully. "She was adequate, not exceptional." I am surprised she became this successful." Christine read the advertisement. "A solo concert at Carnegie Hall is very impressive. Maybe she improved after she left here." "Maybe," Harrison said. He pretended to be casual. "Would you want to go to New York City and see her perform? We could make a weekend trip out of it." Christine looked up with excitement. "Really? That sounds wonderful. I love Carnegie Hall, and it would be interesting to see your former student." "I will buy tickets tonight," Harrison said. They ate dinner together. Christine talked about her work as an art curator. Harrison barely listened. His mind was on Melody. After dinner, Harrison went to his computer. He searched for information about Melody Wright online. He found several articles about her music career. One article said she was a self-taught composer who created hauntingly beautiful piano pieces. Another article mentioned she was a single mother. Harrison's chest tightened. The article did not say how many children she had. It did not mention their ages. Harrison found photographs of Melody performing at small concert halls. She looked confident and happy. He found one photograph of her with 3 children. The picture was taken from far away. He could not see the children's faces clearly. They appeared to be young, maybe 5 or 6 years old. Harrison stared at the photograph. Was one of those children his? Did Melody have the baby? He assumed she probably had an abortion or gave the baby up for adoption. But maybe she kept it. Harrison felt uncomfortable. He closed his laptop. "Did you buy the tickets?" Christine called from the living room. Harrison opened his laptop again. He went to the Carnegie Hall website. He found Melody's concert date. It was scheduled for 6 weeks from now, on a Saturday night at 7:30. Harrison bought 2 tickets in the front row. He wanted to see everything clearly. "Yes, I got them," Harrison called back. "Front row seats." Christine came into the room and hugged him from behind. "You are so thoughtful. This will be a perfect romantic weekend." Harrison forced himself to smile. "I am glad you are excited." That night, Harrison lay in bed next to Christine. She fell asleep quickly. Harrison stared at the ceiling. He could not stop thinking about Melody. Part of him was angry that she became successful. He told her she had no talent. He was wrong. Part of him was curious about what happened to her after she left Boston. Did she really raise a child alone? How did she build a music career? Part of him felt something else, something he did not want to name. It felt like guilt. Harrison remembered Melody's face the day he expelled her. She was crying. She begged him to reconsider. She said she had no family and no money. She said she needed her degree to support her baby. Harrison told her that was not his problem. He told her to leave his office. He never thought about her again. Until today. Harrison rolled over and closed his eyes. He told himself he was going to the concert to see if Melody really had talent. He told himself he was curious about her success. He told himself it had nothing to do with guilt or shame. But Harrison could not sleep. He lay awake for hours. In his mind, he saw Melody's face from 6 years ago. He saw her crying and begging. Then he saw her face in the magazine advertisement. She looked strong and confident. She looked nothing like the broken student he had destroyed. Harrison finally fell asleep at 3 in the morning. He dreamed of standing in a large concert hall. Thousands of people sat in the audience. On the stage, a woman played piano. The music was beautiful. Then the woman stopped playing and turned around. It was Melody. She pointed directly at Harrison. Everyone in the audience turned to stare at him. Their faces were angry and accusing. Harrison woke up sweating. Christine was still asleep beside him. The clock said 5:15 in the morning. Harrison got out of bed quietly. He went to the kitchen and made coffee. He sat at the table in the dark apartment and drank his coffee slowly. In 6 weeks, he would see Melody Wright again. He would see her perform at Carnegie Hall. He would see if she really had become a great pianist. and maybe he would find out what happened to the baby. Harrison did not know what he expected to happen, but something told him this concert would change everything. The morning after Melody received the Carnegie Hall invitation, her phone rang at 8 o'clock. She was making breakfast for the children. The caller was David Chen. "Good morning, Melody," David said. "I spoke with the Carnegie Hall coordinator. We need to select your concert program by the end of this week. I am coming to Providence tomorrow to work with you. Is that okay?" Melody felt her stomach tighten with nervousness. "Yes, that is fine." "Good. I will arrive at 10 in the morning. We have a lot of work to do." David arrived the next day carrying his laptop and folders full of sheet music. Rosa took the triplets to school. Melody made coffee, and they sat at her small kitchen table. "You will perform for 90 minutes, David said. "That means about 5 or 6 pieces, depending on length. What do you want to play?" Melody had been thinking about this since yesterday. "I want to play my own compositions. That is what people know me for. That is what made them invite me." "Agreed," David said. "But you should also include 1 or 2 classical pieces. It shows your range and training." They spent 3 hours reviewing Melody's original compositions. Melody had written over 30 pieces in the last 3 years. Some were short, some were long, some were sad, some were hopeful. David listened carefully to each one. "This one," David said, pointing to a piece called Midnight Prayer for 3. "This is the piece that made you famous. You must perform this." Melody nodded. "Yes, I will play that one." They selected 2 more of Melody's original compositions. Then they chose 2 classical pieces by composers named Chopin and Rachmaninoff. These pieces were extremely difficult. Melody had played them before, but not recently. "You have 5 weeks to prepare," David said. "You need to practice at least 6 hours every day, maybe 8 hours." Melody looked worried. "I have to take care of my children." "Rosa will help," David said firmly. "This is the most important concert of your life. You must be ready." After David left, Melody sat at her piano. She started practicing the first piece. Her fingers moved across the keys. She played for 2 hours without stopping. When Emma, Sophia, and Daniel came home from school, Melody was still practicing. "Mama, can we play?" Emma asked. "Not right now, sweetheart," Melody said. "Mama has to practice for the big concert. Go play in your room quietly, please." The children went to their bedroom. Melody felt guilty, but she had no choice. She needed to practice. Rosa arrived and made dinner for the children. Melody kept practicing. She played the same section over and over. Her hands started to hurt, but she did not stop. For the next 2 weeks, Melody followed the same schedule every day. She woke at 6 in the morning. She made breakfast for the children. She walked them to the bus stop. Then she practiced piano for 8 hours. Rosa took care of everything else. Rosa made meals. Rosa cleaned the apartment. Rosa picked up the children from school and helped them with the homework. Emma, Sophia, and Daniel understood Mama was working. They tried to be quiet, but sometimes they forgot and ran through the apartment laughing and shouting. Melody would stop playing and tell them to be quieter. The children would look sad and go back to their room. One night, Melody was practicing at 11 o'clock. Her hands were cramping. She had been playing for 12 hours that day. She made a mistake on the same section for the 10th time. Melody felt frustration rise in her chest. She stood up from the piano and walked to the bathroom. She looked at herself in the mirror. Her eyes had dark circles under them. Her hands were shaking. She felt panic fill her body. What if she was not good enough? What if she failed at Carnegie Hall in front of thousands of people? Melody heard Harrison's voice in her head. The voice from 6 years ago. "You lack true musical talent. You will never succeed as a pianist." Melody sat on the bathroom floor. She put her head in her hands and started crying. She cried quietly so she would not wake the children. The bathroom door opened. Rosa stood in the doorway, wearing her nightgown. "Melody, what is wrong?" "I cannot do this," Melody whispered. "I am not good enough. What if Harrison was right? What if I fail?" Rosa sat on the floor next to Melody. She put her arm around her shoulders. "Listen to me," Rosa said firmly. "That man was wrong about you. He was cruel and wrong. You are one of the most talented musicians I have ever heard. You raised 3 beautiful children alone. You built your career from nothing. You are strong. You are ready for this." Melody wiped her eyes. "What if I make mistakes? What if people hate my music?" "Then they hate it," Rosa said. "But that will not happen. Your music is beautiful. It comes from your heart. People will love it because it is real and honest." They sat on the bathroom floor together for several minutes. Finally, Melody stood up. She washed her face with cold water. "Thank you," Melody said to Rosa. "Go to sleep," Rosa said. "Your hands need rest." But Melody did not go to sleep. She went back to her piano and practiced until 3 in the morning. 3 days later, David Chen called Melody. "I have good news. The concert is 90% sold out. Almost all 2,800 seats are taken." Melody felt dizzy. 2,800 people? Yes. This is bigger than anything you have done before. Are you ready? "I do not know," Melody said honestly. "You are ready," David said. "Trust yourself." That night, Melody could not sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling. 2,800 people would watch her perform. What if she forgot the music? What if her hands froze? What if she disappointed everyone? Melody got out of bed at midnight. She walked to the children's bedroom and opened the door quietly. Emma, Sophia, and Daniel were all asleep. The moonlight came through the window and lit their faces. Melody looked at their dark curly hair and green eyes. She looked at their peaceful, sleeping faces. These 3 children were the reason she kept fighting. She was doing this for them. She was proving that Harrison was wrong. She was showing her children that hard work and determination could overcome cruelty and abandonment. Melody closed their bedroom door. She went to her piano in the living room. She sat down and placed her hands on the keys. Then she began to play. She played the piece called Midnight Prayer for 3. This was the piece she wrote for her children. This was the piece that made her famous. Melody played perfectly. Every note was clear and strong. Her hands did not shake. The music filled the small apartment. When she finished the piece, Melody felt tears on her face. But these were not tears of fear. These were tears of determination. She would be ready. She would perform at Carnegie Hall. She would show everyone what she could do. Melody practiced until 5 in the morning. When Rosa woke up, she found Melody still sitting at the piano with tears running down her face. But Melody was smiling. In Boston, Harrison sat at his kitchen table, eating breakfast with Christine. His wife was looking at her phone and smiling. "I just texted my sister Amanda," Christine said. "I told her about our trip to New York City. She wants to come with us. She loves classical music. Is that okay?" Harrison felt his face go pale. His fork stopped halfway to his mouth. "I thought this was a romantic trip for just the 2 of us," Harrison said carefully. "It will still be romantic," Christine said. "But Amanda never gets to do fun things. She will love Carnegie Hall. I already told her to buy a train ticket." Harrison put his fork down. He could not eat any more. Amanda had never liked him. She told Christine before their wedding that Harrison seemed dishonest. Christine did not listen to her sister. but Amanda always watched Harrison with suspicious eyes. "Are you okay?" Christine asked. "You look sick." "I am fine," Harrison lied, "just tired from work." But Harrison was not fine. In 3 weeks he would see Melody Wright again, and now Christine's sister would be there watching everything. Harrison spent the entire day at work thinking about Amanda joining them in New York City. He could not focus on teaching. During his afternoon piano theory class, a student asked him a question 3 times before Harrison heard her. "Professor Cole, are you feeling okay?" the student asked. "Yes, I am fine," Harrison said. "Please repeat your question." But Harrison was not fine. Amanda was smart and observant. She would notice if Harrison acted strangely at the concert. She would ask questions. Harrison needed Christine to uninvite her sister, but he could not think of a good reason why. After his last class ended, Harrison drove home. Christine was not there yet. She worked late on Tuesdays. Harrison opened his laptop and searched for Melody Wright again. He needed to know more about her life. He found an interview she gave to a classical music website 6 months ago. The interviewer asked Melody about balancing her career with motherhood. Melody answered that she had 3 children and they were her entire world. She said being a single mother was difficult, but her children gave her strength. 3 children. Harrison read that sentence 5 times. 3 children, not 1. 3. Harrison's hands started shaking. He searched for more information. He found a newspaper article from Providence with a photograph. The photograph showed Melody standing outside a music venue. 3 children stood next to her. The picture was taken from across the street. Harrison could see the children had dark hair, but he could not see their faces clearly. Harrison enlarged the photograph on his computer screen. He stared at it. The children looked young, maybe 5 or 6 years old, maybe younger. The photograph quality was not good enough to see details. Were they all his children? That was impossible. Melody was pregnant with 1 baby. She told him 1 baby. But what if she had twins? Or triplets? Harrison felt sick. He closed his laptop. Christine came home at 7:30. She was carrying takeout food from a Thai restaurant. "I brought dinner," she said. "I was too tired to cook." They ate together at the kitchen table. Harrison barely tasted his food. Christine talked about a new art exhibit she was planning at her gallery. Harrison nodded but did not really listen. "Harrison, what is wrong?" Christine finally asked. "You have been acting strange for days. Is something bothering you?" "Work is stressful," Harrison said. It was the same excuse he used before. "Is it about this student complaint thing?" Christine asked. Harrison looked up sharply. "What student complaint thing?" "You mentioned it last week. You said some students were complaining about old grading policies, remember?" Harrison did not remember saying that, but he nodded. "Yes, that. It is frustrating." Christine reached across the table and took his hand. "Maybe this trip to New York City will help you relax. Sometimes you work too hard." Harrison forced himself to smile. "You are right." That night, Harrison could not sleep again. He lay in bed next to Christine and stared at the ceiling. His mind kept going back to the photograph of Melody with 3 children. He kept trying to see their faces. He kept wondering if they were his. The next morning, Harrison was drinking coffee when his phone buzzed. It was a text message from Amanda, Christine's sister. "Thanks for letting me join the NYC trip. Looking forward to the concert." Harrison stared at the message. He did not reply. 300 miles away in Providence, Melody was practicing when her phone rang. It was David Chen. "I have important news," David said. "I arranged for you to rehearse at Symphony Hall in Boston 1 week before the Carnegie Hall concert. This will help you get comfortable performing in a large venue." Melody's stomach dropped. "In Boston?" "Yes. Symphony Hall is one of the best concert halls in the country. The acoustics are similar to Carnegie Hall. You need to experience playing in that kind of space before the real concert. Melody felt her chest tighten. She had not been to Boston in 6 years. Not since Harrison expelled her. Not since she left with nothing but her pregnancy and her broken dreams. "Melody, are you there?" David asked. "Yes, I am here." "This is important," David said. "You need this rehearsal." Melody took a deep breath. "Okay, I will do it." "Good. I will send you the details. Oh, and you can bring guests if you want. Rosa and the children can come. They should see you perform in a real concert hall before the big night." After they hung up, Melody sat at her piano, but did not play. She thought about returning to Boston. She thought about walking through those streets again. She thought about the possibility of seeing Harrison. Rosa came into the living room. "What is wrong? You look upset." "I have to go to Boston for a rehearsal next week," Melody said quietly. Rosa understood immediately. "That is where he is." "Yes. You can do this," Rosa said. "You are not the same person who left Boston 6 years ago. You are stronger now. You are successful. He has no power over you anymore." Melody nodded slowly. "You are right. And I want the children to come. I want them to see Symphony Hall. I want them to see me perform." "Then we will all go together," Rosa said firmly. That evening, Melody told Emma, Sophia, and Daniel about the trip to Boston. "We are going to a beautiful concert hall," Melody explained. "It will be very big. Mama will practice on the stage and you three will sit in the audience." "Will there be other people there?" Daniel asked. "No, it will just be us. Just our family." "I cannot wait," Emma said, bouncing with excitement. "We have never seen you play in a real concert hall." Sophia looked worried. "Will you be nervous, Mama?" Melody kissed Sophia's forehead. "Maybe a little nervous. But having you three there will make me brave." The days passed quickly. Melody practiced constantly. Her hands grew stronger. The music became part of her body. She no longer had to think about the notes. They flowed from her fingers naturally. David called her every few days with updates. The Carnegie Hall concert was now completely sold out. Every single seat was taken. Reporters wanted to interview Melody. Music blogs were writing articles about her. "You are becoming famous," David said. "This is everything we worked for." 1 week before the Boston rehearsal, Melody received an email from the Carnegie Hall event coordinator. The email said they were printing the concert program. The program would include information about the performer. They asked if Melody wanted to include any personal details. They suggested she could mention her children. Melody read the email twice. Then she hit reply. She typed, "Yes, please include that I am the mother of 3 children, Emma, Sophia, and Daniel." She hit send without hesitation. In Boston, Harrison was at a faculty meeting when his phone buzzed. It was an email from the Berkeley Alumni Newsletter. The subject line said, "Former student performs at Carnegie Hall." Harrison opened the email. It was an announcement about Melody's upcoming concert. The email mentioned that Melody had studied at Berkeley 6 years ago. It mentioned she was now a successful composer and pianist. It mentioned she was a single mother of triplets named Emma, Sophia, and Daniel. Triplets. Harrison stared at the word. His vision blurred. He felt like he could not breathe. He looked up and saw Christine standing in the doorway of his office. She was supposed to meet him for lunch. She was reading something on her phone. "Harrison," Christine said slowly, "I just got the same email. It says Melody Wright was your student. It says she has 6-year-old triplets." Harrison could not speak. Christine walked closer. She held up her phone so Harrison could see the screen. It was the same email he was reading. "She was your student 6 years ago," Christine said. Her voice was quiet but sharp. "And she has 6-year-old triplets." Harrison's mouth felt dry. "Christine, Wait," Christine interrupted. She was typing on her phone. She pulled up the photograph Harrison had seen before, the photograph of Melody with 3 children. "I found this picture online yesterday. I was curious about your former student. Look at these children, Harrison." Harrison looked at the photograph on Christine's phone. The same photograph he had stared at for hours. "The picture is not clear," Harrison said quickly. "You cannot see their faces." Christine looked at him with cold eyes. "How well did you know this student, Harrison?" "She was just a student," Harrison said. "Nothing more." Christine stared at him for a long moment. Then she put her phone in her purse. "I am going back to work," she said. "I will see you at home tonight." She walked out of Harrison's office and closed the door behind her. Harrison sat alone in his office with his head in his hands. Harrison stayed in his office for another hour after Christine left. He could not face going home yet. He knew Christine was suspicious. He knew she was connecting the timeline. Melody was his student 6 years ago. Melody had 6-year-old triplets. The dates matched perfectly. Finally, Harrison drove home. He arrived at 8 o'clock that night. Christine was sitting on the couch reading a book. She looked up when Harrison entered but did not smile. "Hi," Harrison said carefully. "Hi," Christine replied. She looked back at her book. Harrison sat down next to her. "Are you upset?" Christine closed her book. "I am confused. That email today felt strange. Your former student has triplets who are exactly 6 years old. That means she got pregnant while she was your student." "Students get pregnant," Harrison said. "That has nothing to do with me." "Did you ever have an inappropriate relationship with her?" Harrison had practiced this lie many times. He looked Christine directly in the eyes. "No, she was just a student. I taught her piano theory. That is all." Christine studied his face. "Then why have you been so anxious about this concert? You have been acting strange for weeks." "I have not been acting strange," Harrison said. "I am just stressed about work." Christine picked up her book again. "Okay, if you say so." But Harrison could tell she did not believe him. They barely spoke for the rest of the evening. They went to bed in silence. Christine turned her back to him and fell asleep. Harrison lay awake, staring at the darkness. The next morning, Melody woke up early. Today was the day of the Boston rehearsal. She felt nervous and excited. She made breakfast for Emma, Sophia, and Daniel while they got dressed. "Are you ready for our adventure?" Melody asked the children. "Yes!" they shouted together. Rosa arrived at 7:30 in the morning. They took a taxi to the train station in Providence. The train to Boston departed at 8:15. Emma, Sophia, and Daniel had never been on a train before. They pressed their faces against the window, watching the cities pass by. "Mama, look how fast we are going," Daniel said. Melody smiled. She was glad the children were excited. It helped her feel less nervous about returning to Boston. The train arrived in Boston at 9:30. They took a taxi to Symphony Hall. Melody had not seen this building in 6 years. It looked exactly the same. The beautiful architecture, the tall columns, the wide steps leading to the entrance. A woman wearing a black suit waited at the entrance. "Are you Melody Wright?" "Yes," Melody said. "I am Karen Lee, the stage manager. Welcome to Symphony Hall. Follow me." Karen led them through the lobby into the main concert hall. Emma, Sophia, and Daniel stopped walking. Their mouths fell open. The concert hall was enormous. Red velvet seats stretched in every direction. The ceiling was painted with gold designs. Chandeliers hung from above. The stage at the front held a single grand piano. "Mama, this is the most beautiful place I have ever seen," Sophia whispered. Karen smiled at the children. Would you like to see the stage? The children nodded. Karen took them down the aisle toward the stage. Melody followed behind with Rosa. Melody looked out at the rows and rows of empty seats. Symphony Hall held 2,600 people. Carnegie Hall held even more. You will sit here in the front row, Karen told Rosa and the children. She pointed to 3 seats. You will have the best view. Emma, Sophia, and Daniel sat down carefully. They looked very small in the large seats. Miss Wright, whenever you are ready, Karen said to Melody. Melody climbed the steps onto the stage. She walked to the grand piano and sat down on the bench. She looked out at the empty concert hall. Then she looked at her 3 children sitting in the front row. They were watching her with wide, proud eyes. Melody placed her hands on the keys. She took a deep breath. Then she began to play. The first piece was one of her original compositions called Morning Light. The sound filled the entire hall. The acoustics were perfect. Every note was clear and beautiful. Melody felt the music flow through her body. Rosa sat perfectly still, listening. Tears ran down her face. She had heard Melody practice hundreds of times in their small apartment. But hearing her in this magnificent space was different. This was what Melody was meant for. This was where she belonged. Emma, Sophia, and Daniel sat without moving. They had never heard their mother play in a space like this. The music surrounded them. It was the most beautiful thing they had ever heard. Melody played for 45 minutes. She performed 3 of the pieces she would play at Carnegie Hall. When she finished the last note, Emma jumped out of her seat. Mama, you are amazing! Emma's voice echoed through the empty hall. Melody laughed. The sound of her daughter's voice bouncing off the walls made her feel joy. Karen walked onto the stage. That was absolutely beautiful, Miss Wright. You are going to be magnificent at Carnegie Hall. Thank you, Melody said. Thank you for letting us use this space. After the rehearsal ended, Melody, Rosa, and the children walked outside into the Boston sunshine. It was late October and the air was cool. The leaves on the trees were red and orange and yellow. Can we see the city? Emma asked. I want to see Boston. Yes, Melody said. I will show you where I went to school. They walked through the streets of Boston. Melody pointed out different buildings and parks. Finally, they arrived at the Berklee College of Music. Melody stood across the street looking at the building. She had not seen it in 6 years. This is where I studied music, Melody told the children. Before you were born. Why did you leave? Daniel asked. Melody chose her words carefully. Sometimes, things do not work out the way we plan. But that is okay. If I had stayed here, I would not have you 3, and you are more important than anything. Sophia held Melody's hand. I am glad you have us, Mama. Me too, baby. Me too. They walked to a small Italian restaurant near the train station. Melody ordered pizza for the children. While they were eating, Melody looked out the window and saw someone she recognized. Professor Mitchell. He had been one of her teachers at Berklee. He was a kind man who taught music history. He was one of the only professors who had been nice to Melody. Professor Mitchell walked past the restaurant window. Then he stopped. He looked back. He saw Melody through the glass. His eyes went wide with recognition. He came inside the restaurant and walked to their table. Melody? Melody Wright? Melody stood up. Professor Mitchell, hello. Professor Mitchell smiled warmly. He was in his 60s with gray hair and glasses. I cannot believe it is you. I have been following your career. I am so proud of what you have accomplished. Thank you, Melody said. That means a lot to me. Professor Mitchell looked at Emma, Sophia, and Daniel. Are these your children? Yes. This is Emma, Sophia, and Daniel. Hello, the children said politely. Professor Mitchell stared at the children. His smile faded slightly. He looked at their dark curly hair. He looked at their green eyes. He looked at their faces. Melody watched Professor Mitchell realize the truth. She saw the recognition in his eyes. He knew who their father was. Everyone who knew Harrison would recognize his features in these three children. Professor Mitchell looked back at Melody. His expression was sad and knowing. "They are beautiful," he said quietly. "You should be very proud." "I am," Melody said firmly. Professor Mitchell hesitated. Then he spoke carefully. "What Harrison did to you was wrong, Melody. Everyone at the conservatory knows that now. He has had problems with other students too. Many people have spoken up. His reputation is not what it used to be." Melody felt a small sense of satisfaction hearing this. "Good. You were always talented," Professor Mitchell continued. "Harrison was wrong about you. I am glad you proved him wrong." "Thank you, Professor." They said goodbye, and Professor Mitchell left the restaurant. Melody sat back down. Her hands were shaking slightly, but she felt strong. "Who was that man?" Emma asked. "An old teacher," Melody said. "Someone who was kind to me when I needed kindness." They finished eating and caught the train back to Providence. The children fell asleep on the way home. Their heads rested against Rosa and Melody. Melody looked at their peaceful, sleeping faces and felt grateful. She had returned to Boston and survived. She had faced her past, and in 1 week she would face Harrison at Carnegie Hall. That same evening, Harrison was eating dinner when his phone buzzed. It was a text from Amanda, Christine's sister. "So excited for NYC this weekend. My train arrives Saturday at noon. See you both soon." Harrison put his phone down. His appetite disappeared. Christine was watching him. "Are you sure you want Amanda to come?" Harrison asked one more time. Christine looked at him with cold eyes. "Yes, I want my sister there. Is that a problem?" "No," Harrison said. "No problem." But it was a problem. In 1 week, everything would fall apart. The week before the Carnegie Hall concert passed slowly for Harrison. He tried to act normal around Christine, but he could feel the distance between them growing. She was quiet during meals. She went to bed early. She stopped asking him about his day. On Tuesday evening, Harrison came home from work and found Christine sitting at the kitchen table with her laptop open. She was looking at something intently. "What are you doing?" Harrison asked. Christine did not look up. "Research. I am trying to learn more about Melody Wright. I think it is interesting that your former student became so successful." Harrison felt his chest tighten. "Why are you researching her?" "Because we are going to see her perform," Christine said simply. "I want to know more about her story." Harrison went to the bedroom and closed the door. He sat on the bed feeling panic rise in his throat. He knew what Christine would find online. Articles about Melody, interviews, photographs of her children. An hour later, Christine came into the bedroom. She held her laptop. "I found an interview Melody did with a music magazine," Christine said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were hard. The interviewer asked about her children. Melody said she is raising triplets alone. She said their father is not part of their lives. Harrison said nothing. "The interview is from 3 months ago," Christine continued. "There is a photograph with it. A good photograph this time." Christine turned the laptop so Harrison could see the screen. The photograph showed Melody standing outside a concert hall. Emma, Sophia, and Daniel stood next to her. All 3 children were smiling at the camera. The photograph was clear and sharp. Harrison stared at the screen. He could see everything. The dark curly hair, the green eyes, the facial features that matched his own. There was no denying it. These children looked exactly like him. "Do you see what I see?" Christine asked quietly. "Many people have dark curly hair." Harrison said. His voice sounded weak even to himself. Christine laughed, but there was no humor in it. Harrison, those children look exactly like you. Your hair, your eyes, your face. They could be your biological children. That is ridiculous, Harrison said. But he could not look at Christine. Christine closed the laptop. I want the truth. Did you have a relationship with Melody Wright when she was your student? Harrison had two choices. He could keep lying, or he could tell part of the truth. It was a mistake, Harrison said quietly. It happened 6 years ago, before I met you. It meant nothing. Christine's face went white. You had an affair with your student? It was not an affair. It was brief. It ended quickly. Are those your children? Christine pointed at the laptop. I do not know, Harrison said. Melody never told me she had triplets. She told me she was pregnant with one baby. Then I expelled her from the conservatory. I never saw her again. I assumed she had an abortion or gave the baby up for adoption. Christine stood up. Her hands were shaking. You got your student pregnant and then expelled her? Harrison, that is evil. That is beyond wrong. I know, Harrison said. I made terrible choices. But that was years ago, before I met you. I am different now. Are you? Christine's voice was sharp. Because you lied to me. You bought tickets to see her concert, and you did not tell me you knew her. You did not tell me you had a relationship with her. You did not tell me she might be raising your children. I did not know about the children, Harrison said. I swear I did not know there were 3 of them. Christine walked to the closet and pulled out a suitcase. What are you doing? Harrison asked. I'm going to stay with Amanda for a few days. I need space. I need to think. Christine, please, do not talk to me right now, Christine said. She started putting clothes in the suitcase. I am still going to New York City this weekend. I am still going to that concert. But I am going for me, not for you. I want to see this woman you destroyed. I want to see the children you abandoned. Harrison watched Christine pack. He felt everything slipping away from him, his marriage, his reputation, his life. Christine left that night. Harrison stayed in the empty apartment alone. 300 miles away in Providence, Melody was doing a phone interview with a classical music website. David Chen had arranged several interviews during the week before the concert. The publicity would help Melody's career. Tell us about your journey to Carnegie Hall, the interviewer said. Melody spoke into her phone. It has been a long journey. I studied music in college, but I had to leave before I graduated. I was alone and pregnant. I worked 3 jobs to support my children. I practiced piano every night after they went to sleep. I never gave up on music. You have triplets, correct? Yes. Emma, Sophia, and Daniel. They are 6 years old. They are my whole world. That must be incredibly difficult to balance. How do you manage motherhood and your career? I have help from a wonderful woman named Rosa, who takes care of my children when I travel, and I always come home as fast as I can. My children are my priority. Music is important, but they are more important. Can you tell us about the children's father? The interviewer asked. Melody's voice became firm. Their father is not part of our lives. We are a complete family without him. My children have everything they need. The interview lasted 30 minutes. When it ended, Melody felt tired. She had done 5 interviews this week. Everyone asked the same questions. Everyone wanted to know about being a single mother. Everyone wanted to know about the children's father. Melody would never tell the full story. She would never say Harrison's name publicly. That was not for the media. That was private. But if Harrison came to the concert and saw the children, that was different. That would be his moment of truth. The next day, Melody received an email from David Chen. The subject line said Concert Program Final Draft. Melody opened the attachment. It was a digital copy of the program that would be given to every person attending the concert. The program listed the pieces Melody would perform. It included a biography of Melody, and it included one sentence that made Melody smile. Melody Wright is the proud mother of 6-year-old triplets, Emma, Sophia, and Daniel. Melody forwarded the email to Rosa. Rosa texted back immediately, "Perfect, let him see it." On Friday morning, 2 days before the concert, Harrison was teaching a class when his phone buzzed. It was a text from Christine. She had not spoken to him since she left on Tuesday. "I am still staying with Amanda. We will both take the train to NYC tomorrow. Do not try to contact me before the concert." Harrison put his phone away. He could barely focus on teaching. After class ended, Harrison went to his office. He opened his email. There was a message from Carnegie Hall with the subject line, "Your Carnegie Hall Experience." Harrison opened the email. It contained a digital copy of the concert program for Melody's performance. Harrison scrolled through the pages. He saw Melody's biography. He read the sentence about her 3 children, Emma, Sophia, and Daniel. His children. He knew it now. There was no more denying it. Those 3 children were his. Harrison closed his email. He put his head in his hands. In less than 48 hours, he would see Melody again. He would see his 3 children for the first time. And Christine and Amanda would be there to witness everything. On Saturday morning, Melody woke up at 6 o'clock. Today was the day. She, Rosa, and the children would take the train to New York City in the afternoon. The concert was at 7:30 that evening. Melody was not nervous anymore. She was ready. She had practiced until her fingers ached. She had memorized every note of every piece. She knew exactly what she would play. She made breakfast for Emma, Sophia, and Daniel. The children were excited about going to New York City. "Will there be lots of people watching you, Mama?" Sophia asked. "Yes, baby. Almost 3,000 people." "That is more people than I can count," Daniel said. "Are you scared?" Emma asked. Melody looked at her 3 children. She thought about everything she had survived. She thought about being expelled from school while pregnant. She thought about working 3 jobs. She thought about practicing piano on a cheap keyboard in a tiny apartment. She thought about every moment of struggle that led to this. "No," Melody said. "I am not scared. I am ready." At noon, Harrison and Christine arrived at South Station in Boston to catch the train to New York City. They had not spoken since Christine picked Harrison up that morning. Amanda was already on the train. She had boarded in Providence. Harrison and Christine found their seats. Amanda was sitting across the aisle. She smiled at Christine, but looked at Harrison with cold eyes. "Hello, Harrison," Amanda said. "Hello," Harrison replied. The train started moving. Harrison stared out the window. He watched Boston disappear behind them. He watched the landscape change. Every mile brought him closer to the moment he had been dreading. Christine did not speak to him during the entire ride. She and Amanda talked quietly to each other. Harrison heard his name mentioned several times. He knew Christine had told Amanda everything. The train arrived in New York City at 3:30 in the afternoon. They checked into their hotel. Harrison sat in his room alone while Christine stayed with Amanda. At 6 o'clock, Christine knocked on his door. "It is time to go," she said. They took a taxi to Carnegie Hall. The sun was setting. The streets of New York City were crowded. Harrison felt like he could not breathe. When they arrived at Carnegie Hall, hundreds of people were entering the building. Everyone was dressed elegantly. The lobby was filled with excited conversation. Harrison, Christine, and Amanda found their seats in the front row. Harrison felt sick to his stomach. Amanda was watching him carefully. She noticed how nervous he seemed. "Are you okay, Harrison?" Amanda asked. Her tone made it clear she knew the answer. "I am fine," Harrison lied. The concert hall continued to fill with people. Every seat was taken. Harrison looked around at the massive space. Nearly 3,000 people were here to see Melody perform. At 7:25, the lights began to dim. The audience grew quiet. Harrison gripped the armrests of his seat. Then he heard a child's voice nearby. He turned his head to the left. 6 seats away, Rosa was sitting with 3 children: Emma, Sophia, and Daniel. Harrison's breath stopped. The children had dark curly hair exactly like his. They had his green eyes. They had his facial features. There was no doubt. These were his children. Christine followed Harrison's gaze. She saw the 3 children. She stared at them. Then she looked at Harrison. Her face went completely pale. "Oh my God," Christine whispered. "They look exactly like you." Amanda leaned forward. She looked at the children. Then she looked at Harrison. "I was right," Amanda said quietly. "Those are your children." Harrison could not speak. He could not move. He could only stare at Emma, Sophia, and Daniel. The lights went completely dark. In the darkness, Harrison heard footsteps crossing the stage. Then a single spotlight turned on. Melody walked into the light wearing a white gown. Her long brown hair was pulled back. She looked calm and confident. The audience applauded as she walked to the grand piano. Melody sat at the piano bench. She adjusted her position. Then she looked out into the audience. Even though the house lights were dark, Harrison knew she could see him. The front row was close enough to the stage. Their eyes met for 1 second. Melody's expression did not change. She simply looked at him. Then she looked at the 3 children sitting 6 seats away. Emma waved at her mother. Sophia blew a kiss. Daniel bounced in his seat with excitement. Rosa put her hand on Daniel's shoulder to calm him. Melody placed her hands on the piano keys. The entire concert hall was silent. Nearly 3,000 people waited. Then Melody began to play. The first piece was one of her original compositions called Morning Light. The music filled Carnegie Hall. Every note was perfect. The sound was clear and powerful. Harrison had never heard anything so beautiful in his entire life. He watched Melody's hands move across the keys with perfect precision. She played with complete confidence. There was no hesitation, no mistakes. This was a master pianist performing at the highest level. Harrison felt something break inside his chest. He had told Melody she lacked true musical talent. He had told her she would never succeed. He had been completely wrong. Melody had more talent than he ever had. She had more talent than most pianists he knew. Christine sat frozen in her seat. She was not really listening to the music. She kept turning her head to look at the 3 children. Emma, Sophia, and Daniel sat perfectly still watching their mother. Their faces glowed with pride and love. Christine saw Harrison's features in all 3 children: the dark curly hair, the green eyes, the shape of their faces. These were definitely his biological children. There was no doubt. Amanda leaned close to Christine and whispered in her ear. She had his triplets and raised them alone while he stayed here living his comfortable life. That woman on stage is a hero. Christine said nothing. Tears ran down her face. On stage, Melody finished the first piece. The audience applauded loudly. Melody did not smile or bow. She immediately began the second piece. This one was a classical composition by Chopin. It was extremely difficult. Most pianists made mistakes when performing it. Melody played it flawlessly. Harrison listened and felt shame wash over him. He remembered the day he expelled Melody from the conservatory. He remembered her crying and begging him to reconsider. He remembered telling her she was not good enough. He remembered the fear in her eyes when she realized she would have no degree, no money, and nowhere to go. He had destroyed her life. Or he had tried to. But Melody had survived. She had built herself back up. She had raised 3 children alone. She had become successful despite everything he did to her. The second piece ended. More applause. Melody paused for only a moment. Then she began the third piece. This piece was called Midnight Prayer for 3. This was Melody's most famous composition. This was the piece that made her career. The music started softly. Then it grew louder and more intense. The emotion in every note was overwhelming. Rosa started crying. She had heard Melody play this piece hundreds of times during practice. But hearing it performed in Carnegie Hall was different. This was what Melody was meant for. This was her destiny. Emma, Sophia, and Daniel listened with wide eyes. They knew this song. Mama played it at home all the time. But hearing it here with thousands of people was special. They understood that their mama was not just their mama. She was an important artist that other people loved too. The piece built to a powerful climax. Then it ended with a single soft note that hung in the air. The silence after the note lasted for 3 full seconds. Then the audience erupted in applause. People started standing up. The applause grew louder. Melody stood and bowed. The ovation continued. She bowed again. The audience kept clapping. Harrison stood because everyone around him was standing, but his hands remained at his sides. He could not clap. He could not move. He could only stare at Melody on the stage. Christine stood. She was still crying, but she was not clapping either. She stared at Harrison with disgust on her face. Melody sat back down at the piano. The audience became quiet again. She performed the 4th piece, then the 5th, then the final piece. Every performance was perfect. Every note was exactly right. The concert lasted 90 minutes. When Melody played the final note of the final piece, the audience exploded into applause again. Everyone stood immediately. The ovation was deafening. People were shouting and cheering. Melody stood and bowed deeply. She looked at Emma, Sophia, and Daniel. All 3 children were clapping and jumping up and down. Emma had tears running down her face. She was so proud of her mother. The standing ovation continued for 5 minutes. Melody bowed 3 more times. Finally, she waved to the audience and walked off the stage. The lights came back on. People began gathering their coats and purses to leave. Everyone was talking excitedly about the performance. "That was extraordinary," someone behind Harrison said. "Best concert I have seen in years," another person replied. Harrison remained standing in his seat. He felt like his legs might collapse. Christine grabbed her purse. She looked at Harrison one final time. Her face showed anger and disappointment and sadness. "I am leaving," Christine said quietly. "Do not follow me. Do not come back to the apartment. We are done." "Christine, please," Harrison started, but Christine was already walking up the aisle toward the exit. Amanda followed her sister. Before leaving, Amanda looked back at Harrison. "You should be ashamed of yourself," Amanda said. Then she walked away. Harrison stood alone in the front row. The concert hall was emptying quickly. He saw Rosa taking Emma, Sophia, and Daniel toward the side of the stage. They were going backstage to see Melody. Harrison knew his marriage was over. Christine would divorce him. Everyone would know the truth. His reputation was destroyed, but none of that mattered right now. Harrison needed to see Melody. He needed to see his children. He needed to try to make this right. Harrison walked toward the stage. There was a security guard standing near the stage door. "Excuse me," Harrison said. "I need to speak with Melody Wright." "Sorry, sir," the guard said. "No one is allowed backstage except family." "I am." Harrison stopped. He could not say he was family. He had no right to claim that. "Please," Harrison said. "I know her. I need to speak with her. It is important." The guard shook his head. "I cannot let you through." Harrison stood there feeling helpless. Then he saw movement in the doorway behind the guard. Melody appeared. She had changed out of her white gown into a simple black dress. She looked directly at Harrison. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. 6 years had passed since they last saw each other. 6 years since Harrison destroyed her life. 6 years since Melody left Boston, pregnant and alone. Melody's expression was calm. She did not look angry or afraid. She looked powerful. She nodded to the security guard. "Let him through." The guard looked surprised. "Are you sure, Miss Wright?" "Yes," Melody said. "I will speak with him." The guard stepped aside. Harrison walked through the doorway. He followed Melody down a narrow hallway. His heart was pounding so hard he could barely breathe. Melody led him to a dressing room. She opened the door. Inside, Emma, Sophia, and Daniel were sitting at a table eating cookies. Rosa stood nearby, watching them. All 3 children had chocolate on their faces. They were laughing about something. When Harrison walked into the room, the laughter stopped. All 3 children looked up at him. They stared at the man who looked exactly like them. Harrison stared back at his children. Emma had Melody's smile, but Harrison's eyes. Sophia had Melody's gentle expression, but Harrison's curly hair. Daniel had Melody's curiosity, but Harrison's facial structure. These were his children, his 3 children, and he had never met them. He did not know their favorite foods or their favorite toys. He did not know their voices or their personalities. He knew nothing about them. "Rosa, please take the children outside for a few minutes," Melody said quietly. Rosa understood immediately. She took Emma, Sophia, and Daniel by the hands. "Come on, my loves. Let us go look at the big lobby." "But I want to stay with Mama," Daniel said. "We will come back very soon," Rosa promised. She led the 3 children out of the dressing room and closed the door behind them. Harrison and Melody were alone. The silence between them was heavy. Harrison did not know what to say. He had practiced speeches in his mind for weeks. But now all his words were gone. "I did not know you had 3 babies," Harrison finally said. His voice came out as a whisper. "I thought there was only one." Melody looked at him with eyes that showed no emotion. "You never bothered to find out. You expelled me and disappeared." Harrison swallowed hard. "I made a terrible mistake. I was wrong about everything. I was scared. I panicked when you told me you were pregnant. I was married at the time, and I was thinking only about myself." "You were thinking only about yourself," Melody repeated. Her voice was steady. "You are correct about that." "I am sorry," Harrison said. "I know that is not enough. I know I destroyed your life, but I am truly sorry." Melody crossed her arms. "You did not destroy my life, Harrison. You tried to destroy my life. There is a difference. I survived. I built a life for myself and my children. We are happy. We are successful. You failed to destroy me." Harrison felt tears in his eyes. "You were right to hate me." "I do not hate you," Melody said. "I do not feel anything about you at all. You are not important enough to hate." Those words hurt more than anything else she could have said. "I want to help now," Harrison said desperately. "I want to meet my children properly. I want to be part of their lives. I can pay child support. I can help with school and activities and whatever they need. Please, let me try to make this right." Melody shook her head slowly. "No, please," Harrison said. "They are my children. I have a right." "You have no rights," Melody interrupted. Her voice was sharp now. You gave up any rights when you expelled me from school while I was pregnant. You gave up any rights when you told me I had no talent and no future. You gave up any rights when you abandoned me with nothing. I know I was wrong. You told me I would never succeed as a pianist, Melody continued. You told me I lacked true musical talent. You told me I was wasting my time. Do you remember saying those things to my face? Harrison looked down at the floor. Yes, I remember. You were wrong about all of it, Melody said. I am a successful pianist. I just performed at Carnegie Hall. Thousands of people came to hear me play. Critics love my work. I have a recording contract. I am making good money. I raised 3 beautiful, healthy, happy children completely alone. I did all of that without you. I can see that, Harrison whispered. You are incredible. You always were. I was wrong about your talent. Yes, you were wrong, Melody said. But I do not need you to tell me that now. I do not need your apology. I do not need your money. I do not need your guilt. And my children do not need you. But they are my children, Harrison said. Biologically, they are mine. They have my DNA. They have my features. They deserve to know their father. Melody walked closer to Harrison. She looked him directly in the eyes. You are not their father, Melody said clearly. A father is someone who is there. A father is someone who changes diapers and makes breakfast and reads bedtime stories. A father is someone who works hard to provide. A father is someone who loves unconditionally. You did none of those things. You are not their father. You are just the man who gave me DNA. Harrison felt like he had been hit in the chest. He could not breathe. Emma, Sophia, and Daniel have everything they need, Melody continued. They have me. They have Rosa, who loves them like a grandmother. They have a safe home. They have food and clothes and toys and music lessons. They have stability. They have love. They do not need a stranger walking into their lives and confusing them. I am not a stranger, Harrison said weakly. I am their biological father. Biology means nothing, Melody said. You abandoned them before they were even born. You tried to ruin my life so I could not provide for them. You are the villain in our story. Not the hero, not the father. The villain. Harrison had no response. Everything Melody said was true. I came to Carnegie Hall tonight knowing you might be here, Melody said. I knew you might see me perform. I knew you might see the children. I wanted you to see what you lost. I wanted you to see what you threw away. I lost everything, Harrison said. My wife left me tonight. She saw the children. She knows the truth. My marriage is over. Good, Melody said without sympathy. You deserve that. There was a knock on the door. Rosa's voice came from outside. Melody, the children are getting tired. Should we come back in? Melody walked to the door and opened it. Emma, Sophia, and Daniel came running inside. They went straight to their mother and hugged her waist. Mama, you were the best pianist in the whole world, Emma said. Everyone was clapping so loud, Sophia added. I am so proud of you, Mama, Daniel said. Melody hugged all 3 of them. Thank you, my loves. I am so proud of you too. You sat so quietly and behaved perfectly. The children noticed Harrison standing in the corner. They stopped talking and stared at him. Harrison stared back at them. Up close, he could see even more details. Emma had a small scar above her left eyebrow. Sophia had freckles across her nose. Daniel had dimples when he smiled. Mama, who is that man? Emma asked. She pointed at Harrison. Melody looked at Harrison one final time. Her expression showed nothing. No anger, no sadness, no regret. Nothing. Nobody important, sweetheart, Melody said. Just someone I used to know a long time ago. She turned to Rosa. Let us get our coats. We are going to get ice cream to celebrate. Ice cream! All 3 children shouted. Rosa gathered the children's coats and bags. Emma, Sophia, and Daniel put on their coats while talking excitedly about which ice cream flavors they would choose. They completely forgot about Harrison standing in the corner. Melody picked up her purse and her own coat. She walked past Harrison toward the door without looking at him. The children followed her. Rosa followed the children. Harrison stood alone in the dressing room. Through the open door, he heard the children's voices and laughter growing fainter as they walked down the hallway. Then he heard nothing. Harrison sat down in a chair. He put his head in his hands. He sat there for a long time. He did not know how long. Finally, he stood up and walked out of Carnegie Hall. Outside, the night was cold. It was late November, and winter was coming. The streets of New York City were crowded with people even at 9:30 at night. Cars honked, people talked and laughed. The bright lights of Times Square glowed in the distance. Harrison stood on the sidewalk outside Carnegie Hall. Thousands of people walked past him. He was surrounded by crowds, but he had never felt more alone in his entire life. He pulled out his phone. There were 3 text messages from Christine. The first one said, "I am going back to Boston tonight." The second one said, "Do not come to the apartment. I am packing your things." The third one said, "My lawyer will contact you on Monday." Harrison put his phone away. He started walking. He did not know where he was going. He just walked through the streets of Manhattan. He walked through Times Square, where huge screens showed advertisements and lights flashed everywhere. He walked through crowds of tourists taking photographs. Nobody noticed him. Nobody cared about him. He was invisible. Harrison thought about his children, Emma with her confident voice, Sophia with her gentle eyes, Daniel with his curious questions. He would never know them. He would never be part of their lives. He had 3 children, but he was not their father. He was nothing to them. Harrison walked for hours. His feet hurt. His body was exhausted. Finally, at midnight, he found a hotel and checked in. He went to his room and lay on the bed, fully clothed. He stared at the ceiling. He thought about Melody standing on the stage of Carnegie Hall playing perfect music. He thought about the standing ovation that lasted 5 minutes. He thought about the success she built from nothing. He had told her she would never succeed. He had been completely wrong. Harrison closed his eyes, but he could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Emma, Sophia, and Daniel staring at him. He saw their faces, his faces, and he knew he would see those faces in his mind for the rest of his life. Across the city in Times Square, Melody sat with Rosa and the children at an ice cream shop. They were eating sundaes with chocolate sauce and whipped cream. The children had ice cream all over their faces. They were laughing and happy. "Did you have fun tonight?" Melody asked them. "Yes," they all said together. "That was the best night ever," Emma said. "I want to play piano like you when I grow up," Sophia said. "Can we go to another one of your concerts?" Daniel asked. "Yes," Melody said. "I will have many more concerts, and you 3 will always be in the front row." They finished their ice cream. Then they walked through Times Square. The children stared at all the bright lights and huge screens. They had never seen anything like this before. Rosa took a photograph of Melody with Emma, Sophia, and Daniel. All 4 of them were smiling. They looked happy. They looked complete. They took a taxi back to their hotel. The children fell asleep in the car. Melody carried Sophia. Rosa carried Daniel. Emma walked between them, holding both their hands. In the hotel room, Melody tucked each child into bed. She kissed their foreheads. "I love you," she whispered to each one. Melody stood in the doorway, watching them sleep. Rosa came and stood next to her. "You did it," Rosa said quietly. You proved everyone wrong. You showed him what you became." "Yes," Melody said. "I did." "How do you feel?" Rosa asked. Melody thought about the question. "I feel free." They closed the door and let the children sleep. Tomorrow they would return to Providence. Tomorrow they would return to normal life. But tonight, Melody felt like she had finally closed a chapter of her life that had been open for 6 years. Harrison was part of her past, but he was not part of her future. He was not part of her children's future. He was nobody important. And that was exactly how it should be. The next morning, Melody woke up early in the hotel room. Emma, Sophia, and Daniel were still sleeping. Rosa was awake making coffee with the small machine in the room. "Good morning," Rosa whispered. "How did you sleep?" "Better than I have slept in 6 years," Melody said honestly. They took the train back to Providence that afternoon. The children slept most of the way home. They were exhausted from the excitement of the previous night. When they arrived at their small apartment, everything looked the same. But Melody felt different. She felt lighter. She felt like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. The next day was Sunday. Melody received a phone call from David Chen. "Have you seen the reviews?" David asked excitedly. "No, not yet," Melody said. "Every major music publication gave you 5 stars. The New York Times called your performance extraordinary. The Boston Globe said you are one of the most talented pianists of your generation." "The reviews are perfect, Melody. Absolutely perfect." Melody sat down on her couch. She could not believe what she was hearing. "I am sending you links to all the articles. The reviews are perfect, Melody. Absolutely perfect." Melody sat down on her couch. She could not believe what she was hearing. "I am sending you links to all the articles," David continued. "And I have more news. 3 different concert halls have contacted me asking you to perform. 1 in Chicago, 1 in San Francisco, 1 in Philadelphia. They all want you, and a major record label called this morning. They want to sign you to a 3-year contract." "David, slow down," Melody said. She felt overwhelmed. "This is too much." "This is your life now," David said. "This is what success looks like. You earned this, Melody. Enjoy it." Over the next few weeks, Melody's life changed rapidly. She signed the recording contract with the major label. They offered her more money than she had ever imagined. She would record 2 albums over the next 3 years. David negotiated concert appearances at 6 different cities. Melody would perform once or twice per month. She would never be away from home for more than 2 days at a time. That was her only requirement. A reporter from a national news magazine wanted to interview Melody. They wanted to write a feature story about her journey from single mother to Carnegie Hall's success. Melody agreed to the interview. The reporter came to Providence and interviewed Melody. Melody said firmly, "My children have everything they need. We are a complete family." The article was published 3 weeks after the Carnegie Hall concert. The headline said, "From Nothing to Carnegie Hall, the inspiring story of Melody Wright." The article included photographs of Melody with Emma, Sophia, and Daniel in their apartment. It showed her practicing piano in their small living room. It showed the children doing homework at the kitchen table. The article went viral online. Millions of people read it. People left comments saying Melody was an inspiration. They said she was proof that hard work and determination could overcome any obstacle. David called with more news. "You need a bigger apartment. You can afford it now. The recording contract alone will give you enough money to move somewhere better." Melody started looking at apartments in Providence. She found a beautiful 3-bedroom apartment with a dedicated music room. Each child would have their own bedroom. Rosa would have a guest room to stay in when she needed to. The apartment had large windows and wooden floors. It was perfect. Melody signed the lease, and they moved in 6 weeks after the Carnegie Hall concert. Emma, Sophia, and Daniel were so excited to have their own bedrooms. They ran through the new apartment, laughing and shouting. "Mama, this is the best home ever," Emma said. "We have so much space," Sophia added. "Can I paint my room blue?" Daniel asked. "Yes," Melody said. "You can each decorate your rooms however you want." That night, Melody tucked each child into bed in their own rooms for the first time. She told Emma she was brave and strong. She told Sophia she was kind and creative. She told Daniel he was smart and curious. "I love you all so much," Melody said. "You are my whole world." Meanwhile, in Boston, Harrison's life was falling apart. Christine filed for divorce the week after the Carnegie Hall concert. Her lawyer was expensive and aggressive. Christine wanted the divorce finalized as quickly as possible. Harrison tried calling Christine, but she would not answer. He tried texting her, but she blocked his number. He went to the apartment they shared, but she had changed the locks. His belongings were in boxes in the building's storage room. Harrison moved into a small studio apartment in a cheap part of Cambridge. The apartment was dark and depressing. He lived alone with his thoughts. At work, things got worse. 2 female students filed formal complaints against Harrison. They said he made inappropriate comments during office hours. They said he asked personal questions that made them uncomfortable. The complaints went back months, but the students had been afraid to speak up before. Now they were speaking up. The dean of Berklee College of Music called Harrison into his office. "These are serious allegations," the dean said. "We are opening an investigation. Until the investigation is complete, you are suspended from teaching." "This is not fair," Harrison said. "Those students are lying." "We will investigate thoroughly," the dean said. "But I have to tell you, Harrison, there have been whispers about your behavior with students for years. Multiple people have come forward. This does not look good." The investigation lasted 4 weeks. Investigators interviewed current students and former students. They reviewed Harrison's personnel file. They found a pattern of inappropriate behavior going back 10 years. The dean called Harrison back to his office. "We are terminating your employment effective immediately," the dean said. "You will not be allowed on campus. You will not be allowed to contact students. Your behavior violated multiple policies and ethical standards." Harrison tried to argue, but the dean would not listen. Harrison cleaned out his office while a security guard watched him. He put his books and papers in boxes. He walked out of Berklee College of Music for the last time. Harrison was 46 years old, with no job and no wife. His reputation was destroyed. Other music schools would not hire him once they learned why he was fired. Harrison applied for teaching positions at small music schools in other states. Most schools did not respond to his applications. One school in New Hampshire offered him a job teaching beginner piano to children. The pay was less than half what he made at Berklee. Harrison had no choice. He accepted the job. Harrison moved to a small town in New Hampshire. He rented a studio apartment above a pizza restaurant. The apartment was tiny. He could hear people talking in the restaurant below until midnight every night. Harrison taught piano to children who did not really want to learn. They missed lessons. They did not practice. Harrison felt like his life had become meaningless. Every night, Harrison searched online for news about Melody. He read every article about her. He saw photographs of her performing at concert halls across the country. He saw pictures of her with Emma, Sophia, and Daniel. The children were always smiling. They always looked happy. Harrison had lost everything: his marriage, his career, his reputation, his self-respect. And most importantly, he had lost any chance of knowing his children. 3 months after the Carnegie Hall concert, Melody received a letter. The letter was from Berklee College of Music. It was signed by Professor Mitchell. The letter said the conservatory wanted to offer Melody a teaching position. They wanted her to teach 1 semester per year. They wanted her to inspire the next generation of pianists. They wanted to make things right after what happened 6 years ago. Melody showed the letter to Rosa. "Are you going to accept?" Rosa asked. Melody thought carefully. "Yes, I think I am. It feels right. I can show students that rejection is not the end, that you can survive and succeed even when people tell you that you cannot." Melody called Professor Mitchell and accepted the position. She would start teaching in the fall semester. She would teach 2 classes per week. She would continue performing and recording her own music. But teaching would give her a chance to give back. Emma started taking piano lessons and showed natural talent. Sophia joined an art class and loved painting. Daniel asked to learn violin. Melody signed him up for lessons. The children were thriving. They were happy. They were growing up in a loving home with opportunities and stability. One evening in late February, Melody sat in her music room at her new apartment. She sat at her beautiful new piano that the recording label had given her as a signing gift. Emma, Sophia, and Daniel were in the living room watching a movie with Rosa. Melody placed her hands on the piano keys. She started playing a new composition she was working on. The piece was called Freedom. The music was different from her earlier work. It was not sad or melancholic. It was hopeful and joyful and powerful. Melody played for an hour. When she finished, she realized something important. For the first time in 6 years, Harrison's voice was not in her head. She did not hear him telling her she lacked talent. She did not hear him saying she would never succeed. His voice was gone. He was gone from her mind completely. Melody stood up from the piano and walked to the living room. Emma, Sophia, and Daniel were cuddled on the couch, with Rosa watching an animated movie. They were eating popcorn and laughing. "Mama, come watch with us," Daniel called. Melody sat on the couch. Emma cuddled against her left side. Daniel cuddled against her right side. Sophia sat on her lap. Rosa smiled at them from the armchair. This was Melody's family. This was her life. And it was perfect exactly as it was. In his tiny apartment in New Hampshire, Harrison sat alone eating a frozen dinner. The sound of people laughing in the pizza restaurant below came through his floor. Harrison looked at his phone. He opened a web browser and typed Melody's name into the search bar. He did this every night. He found a new article about her. She had just performed in Philadelphia. The review called her brilliant and moving. There was a photograph of her on stage. She looked confident and radiant. Harrison closed his phone and stared at the wall. He would spend the rest of his life regretting what he did. He would spend the rest of his life seeing his children's faces in his mind and knowing he would never know them. He would spend the rest of his life living with his shame and his mistakes. And there was nothing he could do to change it. 6 months passed. Spring arrived, and then summer. Melody's second album was released in May. The album was called 3 Reasons. Critics loved it. The album reached #1 on the classical music charts. Melody was now famous across the entire country. David Chen called with more good news every week. Concert halls wanted to book her for performances. Music festivals invited her to be a featured artist. Television shows wanted to interview her. "You need to be careful not to overwork yourself," David said. "You can say no to some offers. You are in demand now. You get to choose." Melody was careful. She only accepted performances that allowed her to return home within 2 days. She turned down international tours because they would take her away from Emma, Sophia, and Daniel for too long. Her children always came first. In August, Melody prepared to teach her first semester at Berklee College of Music. She was nervous about returning to the place where Harrison had destroyed her, but she was also excited. She would be Professor Wright now. She would inspire students the way she had once needed inspiration. On the first day of classes, Melody walked into the same building where she had been a student 6 years ago. Everything looked familiar. The hallways, the classrooms, the practice rooms. But this time, she was not a vulnerable student. She was a successful professional. Melody taught 2 classes that semester. One class was advanced piano technique. The other class was composition. Her students were talented and hardworking. They looked at Melody with respect and admiration. One student named Jennifer stayed after class the first week. She was a young woman about 20 years old, with dark hair and nervous eyes. "Professor Wright, can I ask you something?" Jennifer said. "Of course," Melody replied. "I read your story online about being a single mother and building your career from nothing. I am going through something difficult right now, too. I am thinking about dropping out of school. How did you keep going when everything was hard?" Melody looked at Jennifer and saw herself 6 years ago. She saw the fear and uncertainty. "I kept going because I had people who depended on me," Melody said. "My 3 children needed me to be strong. But even if you do not have children, you have yourself. You owe it to yourself to keep fighting. Do not let anyone tell you that you are not good enough. Do not let anyone take away your dreams." Jennifer started crying. "Thank you. I needed to hear that. If you ever need to talk, my office door is always open," Melody said. Jennifer became one of Melody's best students that semester. She did not drop out. She thrived. Melody realized teaching gave her a new kind of purpose. She was not just creating music, she was helping other people create music. She was protecting students from experiencing what she had experienced. Professor Mitchell stopped by Melody's office one afternoon. "How are you adjusting to teaching?" he asked. "I love it," Melody said honestly. "It feels meaningful." Professor Mitchell smiled. "I am glad you came back here, and I am glad the conservatory finally did the right thing by offering you this position. What Harrison did to you was unforgivable. I am sorry I did not speak up for you 6 years ago." "You could not have changed what happened," Melody said, "but thank you for saying that." "For what it is worth, Harrison is gone now," Professor Mitchell said. "He was fired. The school investigated his behavior with multiple students. He will never teach at a reputable institution again." Melody felt nothing hearing this news. No satisfaction, no anger, nothing. Harrison was irrelevant to her life. That evening, Melody came home to find Emma practicing piano in the music room. Emma was now 7 years old. Her fingers moved across the keys with natural grace. She was playing a simple piece, but she played it beautifully. Melody stood in the doorway watching her daughter. Emma looked up and smiled. "Mama, did I play it right?" Emma asked. "You played it perfectly," Melody said. "You have real talent, sweetheart." "I want to be a pianist like you when I grow up," Emma said. Melody walked over and hugged her daughter. "You can be anything you want to be, and I will support you no matter what." Sophia came running into the room, holding a painting. "Mama, look what I made in art class today." The painting showed 4 people standing together. A tall woman with brown hair and 3 children with curly dark hair. They were all smiling. "Is this us?" Melody asked. "Yes, it is our family," Sophia said proudly. "My teacher said it is beautiful. She wants to put it in the school art show." "I am so proud of you," Melody said, kissing Sophia's forehead. Daniel came in carrying a library book about violins. "Mama, can I practice my violin now?" "Yes, but practice in your bedroom so Emma can keep practicing piano," Melody said. Melody stood in the music room and listened to Emma playing piano and Daniel playing violin in the other room. She heard Sophia singing while she cleaned up her art supplies. These were the sounds of her life. These were the sounds of happiness. Rosa came to the doorway. "Dinner will be ready in 20 minutes. "Thank you, Rosa," Melody said. "What would I do without you?" "You would still be amazing," Rosa said, "but I am glad I get to be part of this family." Rosa was no longer just the nanny. She was family. She lived with them full-time now. She had her own bedroom and her own space. But she chose to stay because she loved Melody and the children. That night after dinner, Melody helped the children with their homework. Then she gave them baths and read them bedtime stories. She tucked Emma into bed and told her she was strong and talented. She tucked Sophia into bed and told her she was kind and creative. She tucked Daniel into bed and told her he was smart and curious. "We love you, Mama," they all said. "I love you 3 more than anything in the world," Melody replied. After the children were asleep, Melody went to her music room. She sat at her piano and placed her hands on the keys. She began playing a new composition. This piece was called New Beginning. The music was joyful and free. It represented everything Melody had become. She played for an hour. When she finished, she realized she was smiling. She was truly happy. Not happy despite her past, just happy. Rosa came into the music room with 2 cups of tea. She handed one to Melody and sat down in the armchair nearby. "That was beautiful," Rosa said. "Your new music sounds different. It sounds lighter." "I feel lighter," Melody said. "For so long I was carrying anger and pain, but I do not carry it anymore. I let it go." "You have every right to be proud of yourself," Rosa said. "You survived something that would have destroyed most people. You turned your pain into art. You raised 3 incredible children. You are living proof that good things can come from terrible situations." Melody sipped her tea. "I used to think about what my life would have been like if Harrison had not expelled me, if he had supported me when I got pregnant, if things had been different." "And what do you think now?" Rosa asked. "I think everything happened exactly the way it was supposed to happen," Melody said. "If Harrison had stayed in my life, he would have damaged my children. He would have taught them that lying and manipulation are acceptable. He would have been a terrible father. Emma, Sophia, and Daniel are better off without him. We are all better off without him." Rosa nodded. "You are absolutely right." They sat together in comfortable silence. Outside, snow began to fall. It was early December. The holiday season was approaching. Melody planned to take a break from performing and teaching for a few weeks. She would spend every day with her children. They would decorate their apartment. They would bake cookies. They would be together. Melody looked around her music room. She had a beautiful piano. She had shelves full of sheet music. She had awards and honors displayed on the walls. She had accomplished everything she dreamed of and more. But the most important things in her life were sleeping in the bedrooms down the hall. Emma, Sophia, and Daniel were her greatest achievements. They were her legacy. They were her reason for everything. In his studio apartment in New Hampshire, Harrison sat alone in the dark. He had just finished teaching piano to 3 children who did not care about music. He was exhausted and depressed. Harrison opened his laptop. He typed Melody's name into the search bar. He did this every night. It was a habit he could not break. He found a recent article about her teaching position at Berkeley. The article mentioned that students loved her. They said she was inspiring and kind. The article included a quote from a student who said Professor Wright changed her life. Harrison closed his laptop. He lay down on his bed and stared at the ceiling. He thought about what his life had become. He was 50 years old now. He lived alone. He had no wife. He had no friends. He had no respect. He had no future. And he had 3 children who did not know him. 3 children who were growing up happy and healthy without him. 3 children who would never call him Dad. Harrison had won nothing and lost everything. His choices had destroyed his life completely. Meanwhile, in Providence, Melody stood at the window of her music room, looking out at the falling snow. She held a cup of tea in her hands. She felt peaceful and content. She thought about the frightened, pregnant student she had been 6 years ago. That version of herself felt like a different person now. That Melody had been broken and scared. This Melody was strong and successful. Melody walked to her children's bedrooms. She opened each door quietly and looked at their sleeping faces. Emma, Sophia, Daniel. Her 3 reasons for everything. She closed their doors and returned to the music room. She sat at the piano one more time. She placed her hands on the keys. Then she began playing. The music that came from her piano was pure and beautiful and free. No pain, no anger, no ghost voices telling her she was not good enough. Just music, just joy, just freedom. Melody played until midnight. Then she closed the piano lid and went to bed. She fell asleep immediately. She dreamed of concert halls and applause and her children's smiling faces. She dreamed of happiness, because happiness was her reality now, and no one could ever take that away from her again. If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen